Welcome to 3, 2, 1 Photoshop. I'm Julieanne Kost. Check out these 8 great reasons to use layer groups. First of all, they can just help you to organize your layers panel. I have 4 layers here, all of shells. If I want to put them in a group, I'll use Command or Control G. And now you can see I wouldn't need to scroll through my layers panel as far. If I want to see the contents of the group, I can click on the disclosure triangle. The second reason is that they can help you when you want to affect multiple layers at once. Say, for example, I select the Move tool and I want to move all 4 of the shells. Instead of having to select them all, I can select the group and reposition them. Likewise, I could do things like apply free transform, or I could duplicate all the layers by just duplicating the group. Third, I can change the opacity of all of the layers within the group at one time by just changing the opacity with the group selected. The fourth reason is I can apply blend modes to layer groups. Let's zoom in so that we can see what's happening here. If I select the individual shells and change the blend mode to multiply, the shell on top is being multiplied with the shell underneath it, and they're both being multiplied with the water droplets. I'm going to undo that, select the group, and change the group blend mode to multiply. Although the shells are still being multiplied with the water droplets, you'll notice that the top shell is no longer being multiplied with the shell underneath it. And that's because Photoshop treats the contents in the group as if they have been merged together before it applies the layer group blend mode. All right, let's change the blend mode back to the default, which is not normal, but it's pass-through instead. Now, what if I want to have the shells multiplied with one another, but not with the background? Well, that's the 5th reason to use layer groups. They can restrict the blend modes within the group. So I'll select all 4 of the shells, change their blend mode to multiply, but then change the group's blend mode from pass-through, because right now the multiplication is passing through the bottom of the group, and I will restrict it by setting it to normal mode. Now there's interaction between the shells within the group, but it doesn't go beyond the group. There's no interaction with the background. All right, let's set that back to pass-through, and then I'm going to reset all of the layers back to normal. We'll zoom out. The 6th reason to use layer groups is when you're applying layer styles. If I select a layer and apply a style, and then select another layer and apply the style, well, if we zoom in, we can see that those layer styles are actually affecting one another, in that the top layer is going to cast the drop shadow onto the layer below. If I hide the drop shadow, we can see that effect. So let's remove those 2 layer effects by just dragging them to the trash, and instead let's apply the layer effect to group 1. We can see we get a very different result because, again, Photoshop is treating all of the layers within the layer group as if they are merged together before it applies the layer style. And this is really only a big deal if you have overlapping objects. If I select my Move tool and choose Shell 1 and I don't have it overlap, then we really couldn't see the difference, and it might be very advantageous to apply the layer style to the group, because applying it to the group means you only have to manage one layer style if you need to make changes. All right, I'm going to delete that layer style. And the 7th reason you would use layer groups is you can use them as clipping masks. So I have another layer here of water that I only want to appear where there are shells. So under the layer menu, I'll choose Create Clipping Mask. Now the water is restricted to only be displayed where there is pixel data or content in that group. Now it doesn't look that great, so maybe I should just use the hue from that layer instead. Finally, if you've ever wanted to mask multiple layers at once, layer groups are the perfect way to do this. I can select Layer Group, add my layer mask, and then select my gradient tool, for example, and click and drag in the mask in order to mask all of the layers within that group. And there you have it. I'll talk to you soon.